Oh, there. Okay. Okay, here's part 2 of the letter Het. So in Psalms 119, verse 57, Chal Chalaki THYLYM QOOF-YOD. We talked about that, where it says, my difference, you'll see in the dictionary, it says opinion, where we might get the word special, smooth, like butter, glide, slippery, satiny, ice rink, flattery, divided, a portion. So the portion given to me, like what Joseph had to him, you could even say what Moshe had, what David is saying here, Yahuwah, Amerti, La Shamar Debarika. My difference, my opinion, my portion, which is different than anybody else, regardless of what anybody else believes, their denomination, their ecumenical council, their pope, their bishop, their priest, whoever, I declare, or Amer T, Aleph Mem Resh Tav Yod. Tav Yod is a suffix, means I have or I will. Aleph Mem Resh is to declare. So you could say, well, that's not the same as a vow. The word debar means to speak. The word Amer means to speak. Vow is Shin Bet Ayin. But David is making this declaration. Yeshua said, let your yes be yes. So it's essentially the same as a vow to guard he's speaking to Yahuwah, to guard your debar, your word. So this thing, which is unusual, which is set apart, is kind of like his ornamentation, his bejewelment, his regalia, his colors, the same as the Het Bet Resh that we talked about earlier. This is the thing which distinguishes David, or those who are like David in David's group, David's clan, a certain patch you wear on your sleeve if you're in a military unit. So there's a few different words for jewelry. One is Het Lamed Yod, which we'll bump into in the next verse, verse 58. This word here, Het Lamed Kuf. Then there's the Ayin Dalit Yod, witness, testimony. Oh, that which bears witness of your ilk, your type, your crew. Certain patch, a certain hat, a certain type of clothing attire. There's also Het Shin Tav, which is secret, which we'll see that he says it's my secret is that it's no secret. But just so you know, that the essence of what David is talking about here is just says, as for me, I'm going to guard your word. There you go. Yeah, but you don't have to. It doesn't matter. That's what I'm going to do. Next verse, 58. Het Lamed Yod, Tav Yod. So Het Lamed is where you get the word challah, as in challah bread. Challah. And if you get Het Lamed Lamed, there you get to punch holes in, to empty it out, to perforate, pierce, wound to death, to be made like hell, halal. So it's both pleasant and disease. Halalti, then, Haliti, would be my pleasantness, my ornament, my jewelry. It's also the word for link, joint, and vertebra, or that which joins you to others of your same ilk. My smoothness. So the word Het Lamed Yod can also mean smooth, like challah bread is sweet and pleasant. So it's a synonym with that previous first word, Het Lamed Kuf. This is Het Lamed Yod. You could say, well, it's my disease, my illness, my obsession, my criticism. Well, to say that it's that my obsession, that throws it in with ayin nun hey, that word in Isaiah 58, that thing which you focus your attention on. The next word is paneka, your face or your presence. But call love with all heart. Now, he doesn't say with all my heart. So this is an attitude, not him saying what's on his heart. So it says, Paneka bakal love, your face. Panei or panim is face, but this is pei nun yod kaf. Well, pei nun can also mean kind or type or sort, or it's like your stuff. The stuff that's in your face, Yahuwah, the stuff that you care about is my care. And then it says, Hineni ka amertaka. Behold, here am I, Hineni, Kaf, Aleph Mem Resh Tav Kaf. Kaf means you. Like is the first kaf. So here's two kafs with amerta. Like you said. So David is saying, hey, listen, I'm going back and I'm looking at the Torah. You said you wanted somebody who listened to your stuff. Okay, I'm listening to your stuff. That's me. That's who I am. And if I could paint a picture of who I am and what I'm about, that's it. That's what I'm about. It's not that I can do certain gymnastics, not that I can play a certain lick on a guitar. It's not that I can, shoot so many baskets or do push-ups or, hey, I don't have a certain fancy car, but I'm about your stuff. That's what you said you wanted. And I've determined that should be me. That's what David's saying in both verse 57 and 58, essentially. See, David is describing by saying these things, this is his chetness. This is where I'm going to make it my chet, my treasure box, my encampment. Verse 59, chet shin bet. There's that word on page 235. Calculate, reckon, regard with importance, devise, plan. I have and I will consider. I've calculated the whole thing, and I've determined its worth, its value. And like we said in other previous weeks here, that there's phrases here that say this, to know what Yahweh said, and what does he mean, and then for us to take it to heart, is the highest possible achievement. It's the ideal, it's the epitome of any human endeavor on the face of the earth. That's what I see it saying, and so that's what I've chosen to calculate this as being, is the ultimate task that anybody can do while they walk the earth. I mean, you could climb Mount Everest, you can hop in a spaceship and fly to Mars and be the first person to get there, or whatever you think you want to do, but this, knowing, listening to, and knowing what Yahweh said, his words, that's the ultimate thing worth every. So when Yeshua said, hey, there's a guy that found a treasure in a field, he sold everything he had to buy the field, that's this. Pearl of great price, sell everything you have to buy the pearl. That is this. What does it take to know what Yahweh said? Chashavati direct eb. So my way. Vav Aleph Shin Yod Bet. Well, Shin Yod Bet, that the yods and vavs to be taken out. So you got Shin Bet. Well, that's the word shav, or like Shabbat with a tav suffix, or shuv. Shin Vav Bet is return. So it means to dwell, to sit there, to return. I will dwell, I will return, I will. My derek. See, the word derek is not just way, but it's also how to bend the bow. So Yahweh has given in his Torah, this is what you do. This is how you do it. This is what it is. And it's become all other things, taught different things, morphed, permutated, distorted, gone wayward, disacknowledged, misinformation. I'm going to return to the way, and my feet, regali, Aleph Lamed hyphen with ayin tav dalet yod kaf. Well, ayin dalet, that's bejewelment, witness testimony, but it's also something which has been able to be taken away, robbed. And there the Aleph Lamed prefix hyphened to ayin dalet tav yod kaf can mean either the motion toward, or it can mean no, which is Lamed Aleph. But Aleph Lamed and Lamed Aleph can both mean the negative. So if ayin dalet means that which is removed, then I could read this as not removed. I will tav yod kaf, you. So my custom and habit is not to abscond with or remove or take away your stuff. But then the other way to read this is toward ayin dalet tav yod kaf, I will bear witness of you. I will be your bejewelment. Okay, Yahweh, if you want people to ornament themselves by listening to your voice, if that's your treasure, like you said in Malachi 3:16, then I'm going to ornament myself with doing that so that I am your jewelry, your adornment. It's like you want me to wear tzitziot, then if I wear tzitziot, I am your tzitziot by doing so. It's like, well, that's weird. Well, no, what that means is Yahweh says, okay, I want people to look at you as being weirdos, unusual, a little bit different. Okay, if that's what you want. Are you willing to be a fool for Christ, as some people said? Or are you willing to be wacko for Yahuwah? Come on, why does it, listen, it's not wacko, it's just what people think. It's what your own mind might say. It's extreme dignity. You look at some military hats from different cultures over the centuries, and it's kind of like the more prestigious an officer is, the funnier looking hat he's supposed to wear, or a priest might wear. And some of them are just, who dreamed up that thing? Who would wear that? Oh, only the very special get to wear that hat. And it's like, well, okay, it's not a fashion show. Well, it kind of is, but it's kind of like, is that what Yahweh's doing with his people? Yeah, just wear the tzitziot. And it doesn't have to be the way Jews make it. You can do that, but he didn't say it could only be white with blue thread, or it had to be white. He said, blue thread, have a blue thread. Does it even have to be made out of linen from the land of Israel? Not necessarily. I mean, could they be made out of wool? Could they be made out of leather? Could they be made out of whatever you want? Embroidery threads. He said to wear them. And it's like, well, you have to wear them so they can be seen. When you work with power tools, man, they're dangerous. How do you do what he said? What did he say? What do you mean? And how do you do it? I calculate the importance, so I'm going to make sure it's my way, and I'm going to find the correct format and make my feet be your bejewelment. It's kind of like that phrase, kind of like Sonny and Cher. You got me, babe. I got you, babe, or you got me, babe. It's kind of the Ani Ladodi Vidodi Lee. That's kind of what verse 59 here, someone at teen is about. Verse 60, Het Shin Tav Yod. Well, Het Shin Tav is a word, but Tav Yod can be, I was doing the Het Shin thing. Het Shin is the word for secret, still, quiet. It's also the word for like steak. It's easy to remember, like, hush, hush. Just waiting. Vav Lamed Aleph. Well, the Vav can mean and, but it also can mean but. It's like, however, Lamed Aleph is a negative. Hot mama tea. Hot mama tea. Is that a type of beverage? Hey Tav Mem Hey Tav Yod. Hot mama. Lingered, tarried, astonished, astounded, amazed. Like, when you're so dumbfounded or astonished that you can't move, you're just staring. That's the word hatamama. You see a hatamama and you go, whoa, look at her, whoa. Just giving you something to remember. But he says, I will not hatamama. What's he saying? My still quiet secret. See that word het shin shin, a derivative of het shin tav, felt pain, apprehension, chaff, hesitant, sorrowful, felt sympathy, apprehensive. So it's almost like I was skeptical. I was apprehensive. It's like, oh man, should I get involved with this stuff? Is it going to betray Jesus if I regard the Torah? I've been taught otherwise. I've been trying to do what he said, but now it looks like to do what he said, I got to do what everybody says not to do. So he's basically saying, I've been apprehensive and skeptical to the point of inactivity, of not doing this, but I don't want to stand motionless. La shamer mitzvoteka. I don't want to be motionless when it comes to doing what you said, to guarding your mitzvot, your commands. So I've got to find out how to do what you said. Well, that's the crux of this whole burden of learning this stuff. It's like, is it a betrayal of Jesus to sit here and say, why is the church lying about him? Or is it a betrayal of Jesus to eat ham on Christmas Sunday? Verse 61. Het bet lamed yod chavali. That's the word to bind by taking a pledge. It's also the word to be pregnant. So if when you get pregnant, you signed up, you got 9 months, and it's going to get more and more, bigger and bigger until it's over. To bind by taking a pledge. Okay, Yahweh said, if you guys betray me, I'm going to multiply. The vow is the number 7, Shavah, Shin Bet Ayin, to swear a vow, and it's the number 7, and you'll get blessed 7 times over. And if you betray this vow, Leviticus 26, you're going to get cursed by 7. And then Ezekiel 4 times Northern Kingdom, 390 years. 7 times 390 is 2,730. From 721 BC, when Assyria took over the Northern Kingdom, until 2010, 15 years ago, would have been the end of that curse. That time, that measured portion, the measured leash, to bind by taking a pledge. Everything that Het Bet Lamed Yod means, it also means destroyer, to writhe and travail, like a pregnant woman about to give birth. It means corrupted, ruined, confused, and confounded. Rigging and ropes. Like you see, picture square rib sailing ship. You got, say they've got 3 masts, maybe the 4 masts, maybe they've got 5 masts, maybe even more. A yacht maybe has 1, but my point is, you've got these masts that are tied down with all kinds of rigging. That's the word, to be bound by ropes, rigging. The next word here is Resh Shin Ayin Yod Mem. Well, Resh Shin Ayin is evil. Evil, wicked, cruel, guilty sinners. And then the word Ayin Vav Dalet Nun Yod. Well, Nun Yod is I do. I'm present tense doing. I'm Ayin Dalet is witness, but it's also Ayin Vav Dalet here is again and again, repeatedly, forcefully. So David is saying, I bear witness constantly that the wicked have bound themselves with ropes, like masts on a ship. They can't get out of it. When they do wickedness, they get hell on their head. Pierced, wounded, halal. And then there's that verse that says, there ain't no rest for the wicked. David sees repeatedly those who do wickedness, Resh Shin Ayin, have got themselves tied like a mast to the ship. There's no getting out of it. There's no getting around it. There's no escaping what they have done to themselves, bringing torments on themselves and bringing a certain destiny of destruction. Your Torah I will not forget. Tortata Tavav Resh Tav Kaf. Torata Ka Lo. The word to forget here is also the word for oblivion, amnesia, or leave behind, like being left behind or taking too much gear with you and you have to toss it on the side of the trail so you can keep going. Shin Kaf Het Sha Kafta Ha Ya. Aleph Shin Kaf Het means to find, at hand, ready, frequent, usual, which is synonym with Resh Gimel Lamed. So here, the same word to forget and to find. To put the aleph in front of it, just part of the grammar. The point is, the same word quite often can mean both the pro and the con, both the positive and the negative. This is one of those cases where he says, I don't want to forget. When I see what happens to the evil, the wicked, those who don't care about your stuff, look what they've done to themselves. It looks like they prosper for a while, but they can't escape it. Like, just every time you see a square rigged sailing ship and you see all the ropes and all the rigging and all the, remember, that's what happens to you when you do evil. But it's also what happens to you when you walk in Yahuwah's ways, because his words are true and you're tied to being in his head and getting all the benefits. Verse 62, Chazot Laila, arrows at night. Aleph Kufav Mem. Well, Kufav Mem, like Kumi Ori, literally means remain, fixed, solid, explain, confirm, carry out, establish, ratified, stature, height. You look in the dictionary and it's the beginning, they'll say it's the beginning of the foreign word for ecumenical, which means open to the whole world. That which is established is basically worldwide the way it's built. Arrows at night, or the night is divided, like the word chatz, it means arrow, but it's also various partitions. So it's translated at midnight. I will arise, la hodu ot, and give praise and thanks, hodu, hevav dalet, vav, laka, to you, al mishfati zadikeka. So I will give thanks and praise to you, yoked with or on account of mishfat. Well, that's what I get for being your person. That's the balancing of scales in the good way. The last word is zadik, zadi dalet kuf, with a kaf suffix meaning you. Well, what's Yahweh's zad? Well, because he's righteous. I will give thanks because my measured balancing of scales, what's coming back to me is because you're righteous, you will ensure what? The word zadik means victory, deliverance, salvation, justice. Yahweh, I trust you that you will always, always do what you said. And you said those who regard your words and take your matters to heart and have your words written on my heart, you will give me victory, deliverance, and salvation. That's your justice, and you will not fail to do that. That's fixed. And then if I look at the night sky, the stars at night, isn't that what's written into the constellations, the Mazarot? That same message? So the Chatzot Laila can mean at midnight I will arise, or I can read the same two words. It's saying, if you know how to properly divide up the constellations, the same message that goes across to the voice of the entire planet Earth or the whole world is that you are righteous and you will give your people victory, deliverance, and salvation. Yet for a time, they will be under the 2,730-year curse, the northern 10 tribes. But when that time is over, 2010, thank you very much, you're going to restore your favor. When we return to your words, that's what Deuteronomy 30 says, and Ezekiel 36. Yeehaw, you betcha. Oh, wait a minute, but what if this isn't really 2025? You know, there's people on the internet that are saying, hey, there was a certain king and a pope, an emperor and a pope got together and added 300 and something years, or 297 years or something back in 600 to 900 AD. And other people say, look, there was 1,000 years taken out or another one added here. It's like, we have no idea what year this really is, except other people say, no, the stars work like a timepiece and we can wind things back and we know exactly what day it always is because the stars work like clockwork. So if I look at the stars, Chatzot Laila, you know what time it is. Does it calculate that this is 2025? Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. I personally don't know right now the answer to that question, but I don't even care because it's always still the same thing for me. What did he say? What does that mean? And what are we supposed to do about it? And at any time, whether it's the end of the 2,730-year curse or not, I'm still supposed to do the same thing. It just doesn't matter. If it is the end of the 2,730-year curse, then yeehaw, woohoo, we've got only good. but I've never heard anybody else talk about that. You can look online right now and see all kinds of prophets and preachers and evangelists and teachers all talking about the tribulation and the rapture and the coming this and that. And it's like, why don't they talk about Yahweh restoring his favor to his people? That's what's inside the het that I see. Yahweh said he'd restore his favor to his people. Yeah, but how do you decide what's in your het? Well, verse 63, Chaver ani laka asher yirauka beshemer fakudika. Okay, Chaver, that's the word chaverno, joined, united as a company of scholars. The word is Zitziot, you might say, of the stripes. Those of the colors, ani, I am, lachal, asher, as all who walk straight are blessed, yirah, that's fear, regard, you. It's talking to Yahweh here. And those that shamri, watch with responsibility, pei QOOF-YOD-TET Yod-Kaf. Well, the Yod means it's mine, and the Kaf means it's yours. So pei QOOF-YOD-TET is fakad, hakoda. It's on deposit what you entrusted me with. You appointed me. You ordered and commanded me. You will hold me responsible, accountable for, will punish me if lacking, and I will give account for. Debriefing my assignment is my official task to manage. It's the exact word describing when YHUH said there was a man that went away on a journey and he left his stuff, talents, with 3 servants. This guy 5, this guy 3, this guy 1. And he came back later and says, now come present yourself before me, a debriefing, and say, what did you do? What happened? What did you do with the stuff I gave you? So I see the responsibility of knowing what these words mean and extolling the grandeur of Yahweh's Avot, the Elohim of Israel, and his Mashiach, Yahusha, who came down in his name to show us the way and give us access back to the truth, though it got scrambled, more permutated over the centuries. That's what I'm responsible for. Verse 64, the last verse of this section, Chesedka, your chesed, your tender loving kindness, Yahweh. Mem lamed aleph hey. Well, that's the word that means to fill, the full of, the all of. Haaretz, fills the earth. Your chesed, your tender loving kindness, fills the entire earth. Chokitka. Well, het kuf, that's the word for law. Chokika, your law, being my law. Being choki, not only is it law, but it means to imitate. So I imitate you is chokika. Lamed mem dalet nun yod. La manadani. La lamed, that's a prefix. Lamad, lamed mem dalet. Well, that's the word lamed, which means teach and learn. But if it's a prefix, it means according to mem dalet, or is it mem dalet with a nun yod suffix, or is it mem dalet nun with a yod suffix, making it mine? Well, it's all those things. So mem dalet, mad, made, mode. Mode is the way that it works, the way that it fits, tailor-made, stretched to fit, fits suitably, suits me. I have learned lamed. So putting all that together in this word, unto I imitate you, and that's my mode. That's my manner. Tailor-made, fits suitably. It suits me. I have learned. But dalet nun is the word for judge. And dalet nun then is also to contend and kind of squabble to try to determine something. So mem is at or away from. So this could be read as, I have learned to be away from contending, not to argue. Dalet nun. Measured as my index, mem dalet, measuring index. I stretched myself. I have nun dalet, the stretching to fit into the tailor designed outfit of your character. If I was to contend against your engraved decree, that's lamed in the case of dalet nuning, your het kuf, the previous word, and then see the word for eraser is mem het kuf. Well, if het kuf means imitate and law, mem het kuf can mean doing it, but mem can also mean away from, and it's the word that means eraser. So it's, or to blot out. So he's basically saying, if I was to contend against your grave decree, I would blot out myself. I would erase my place. So David here is saying, listen, I have this het place. I have this access to your words and everything you promised as our inheritance for being your people. But if I don't walk in your ways, I blot that out. I remove myself from that. So we're going to look at something in Genesis here. What is it that David saw? Well, David didn't have the Bible that we have. He didn't have Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and he had the Torah. And in the Torah, it starts off with Genesis. So what is it that is the great het of Genesis? I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was saying, listen, you can't keep talking about the Torah. It's not about all the sacrifices. Yeshua died on the cross. And when Yeshua was hanging on the cross, he didn't say, okay, some of this is now completed. He said, it is finished. I say, wait a minute. When I think of the Torah, I don't think of the sacrifices. He said it wasn't about the sacrifices. What's it about? We're going to look at a couple things. And if you go back to Genesis up through chapter 12, he's talking about the various generations of the people after the Tower of Babel. And he gets up to the days of Abraham. So Genesis 12, verse 1, Yahweh says to Abraham, go for yourself. That's lek lakah, lamed kaf, go, lakah, for yourself, lamed kaf, go for yourself. So that's the English translation here. From your land, from your relatives, from your father's house, to the land I will show you. Well, wait a minute. That's like the first 6 letters is just normal life. Zion, here's going to be a cutting off into this land that I'm going to show you, which is a foreign land that's not anything you know. It's nothing you know. That's the het. So here in Genesis chapter 12, in the first verse, is talking about this het concept, Yahweh speaking to Abraham. And it doesn't say here that he showed up and talked to him in person. It doesn't say that a word like speaking to Moshe from the bush, or that in a dream or a vision. It just says, Yahweh said to Abraham. How did that happen? Did Abraham just all of a sudden have a thought one day and he hear a voice and get up and go? Was he pondering like, I need to get out of here. I should go to a foreign land where everything's going to, it's like, it doesn't even tell us how it happened, but somehow the man who was connected to his heritage there, his father was there, and his father just died in the tail end of chapter 11, right before. And this somehow Yahweh said to Avram, get up and go to a place I'll show you. So I see this as saying, well, that's kind of like what's in the het, but what's in the het? Verse 2, and I will make you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who curses you I will curse, and all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you. Now, I personally take that as what's offered to us, to me, if we choose to enter the het of Yod-He-Vav-He. The blue, purple, red, white embroidery on the Mishkan. Again, Mishkan is the word translated tabernacle, which is the same as tavern, taverno in Greek, which is the neighborhood watering hole, get together, place to hang out. It's the gathering place, the neighborhood gathering place, the place of meeting together. Yahuwah Zavot, the creator of the universe, said to Abraham, I will bless you. Get up from this place and come to the place I will show you. So I see in this scripture that Yahuwah is saying that to me. And as my friend said, you can't have the Torah without Jesus, without Yeshua. He is the other half of it. And it's like, I don't see any mention of Yeshua here. Now, I know that he's the Vav Man Zion who was thrown into the tomb Het, but at this hat, I don't see Yeshua. I see Yahweh saying, I will bless those who bless you. I will make you a great nation. It's like, okay, well, yeah, but what are the terms and conditions? Well, that's 12 verses 1 to 3. So then if I look at verse 7, it says, Yahweh appeared to Abraham. Well, now it says he appeared. Before it just said he spoke. Now, how did he appear? It doesn't say. It says, to your offspring, I will give this land. To your offspring. Well, Yeshua said, those who do what Abraham did are his offspring, not those who claim to be of his genetics. Well, that would include us. What do we have to do? So then I can look ahead to next chapter, Genesis 13:15. All the land that you see, to you I will give it, and your descendants forever. Okay, well, he's talking about the land. Genesis 15, verse 5. And he took him outside and said, gaze now toward the heavens and count the stars, if you're able to count them. Well, the word count is sefer, which means tell a story by connecting the dots. It's not just count. And he said, so shall your offspring be. And he wasn't necessarily talking about the number. He was talking about the story in the stars. And so there's a benefit to looking at that, which we'll get into in another talk. Then you go up to verse 13, and he said to Abraham, know with certainty, Yada tada, Yod Dalet Ayin, Tav Dalet Ayin. Know with certainty, your offspring shall be aliens in a land not their own. They will serve them, they will oppress them 400 years. So when Moshe had the Exodus event on the first day of, actually it's the 15th of the first month, first day of unleavened bread, it said it was exactly 400 years or 430. There was an issue with the 30 years. But it was a fulfillment of this prophecy. But they weren't in the land of Egypt the whole time, because that was while Abraham was still in the land of Canaan here. But what I'm saying is, know with certainty that tet het. There's something about tet het, which is a certainty. The round rock rolled in front of the tomb door. Yahweh wants us to know with certainty that he gave a promise, you might say, to the descendants of Abraham. 17 verse 1. When Abraham was 99 years old, Yahweh appeared to Abraham and said to him, I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be perfect. Well, nobody can be perfect. Yeah, but why did he tell him to be perfect? Why did he say, walk before me and be perfect? The word perfect is tav mem. The word walk is halakah. Al panei is in my face, or walk before me. I will set my covenant between me and you, and I will increase you most exceedingly. Then he goes on in chapter 17 and gives him the circumcision as the sign of the covenant. It says, throughout all your generations forever. That's part of it, whether anybody likes it or not. Get into verse 19. Genesis 18:19. Now, this is a critical consideration here. I have loved him. This is Yahweh speaking. He's looking at Abraham and he's saying, I have loved him because he commands his children and his household after him, so that they keep the way of Yahweh, doing charity and justice, in order that Yahweh might then bring upon Abraham that which he had spoken of him. Now, so when the question that I brought up earlier, saying how many people on the prayer chain, or if they're not keeping the Torah, what do they have to do in order to get their voice heard? And then you go to Isaiah 58 and talking about, well, how, if nobody's doing that, then how's anybody going to have their voice heard? Another verse, Genesis 20, verse 10, Abimelech said to Abraham, what did you see that you did such a thing? Abraham misrepresented that Sarah was his wife. He said it was his sister, which she was, but he said, listen, I saw that you had no fear of Elohim, and so that you would kill me and take her. So I said, she's my sister, so you let me live. But see, when Abimelech said, what did you see that you did such a thing? Abimelech had a certain expectation of Abraham's character. And when Abraham suddenly behaved differently, So as Abimelech got in really big trouble, he said, why did you do that to me? But he didn't just say, what's the matter with you, Abraham? He said, what did you see? That's a really interesting phrase. You see, if you're going to church, or if you're just a pagan heathen, an infidel, somebody who doesn't care, you're a scientist, a real smart guy, and all of a sudden there's a radical change in your life. Say you start looking at the Torah, you could say, somebody might say to you, what did you see that you did such a thing? Why would you suddenly start behaving? Well, go back to this verse 19 of Genesis 18. It says, he yadatio yod dalet ayin tav yod vav. But you see, it says, I have loved him. That's not the word for love. That's not ahava or chet bet bet. That's yod dalet ayin. That's yada. But see, yod dalet ayin is the word knowledge. Da'at, diet alan tav, and then yod vav. That means he knows the door, dalet ayin tav, door to understanding covenant. But it says, I have loved him. So tav yod, I have, yada, and then vav is him, meaning the subject. But since when does yada mean love? So there's something about knowing somebody in this close, intimate way, which is equivalent with the word love. But they didn't, you don't know that. He knows me, I know him. The next word is lamed mem ayin nun, because in that asher, that's straight, that's who, that which, and then yod zadi vav hey. Well, zadi vav is the word command. So I have loved him because that he will, that's yod prefix to zadi vav hey, he will command ALEF-TAV b'nei, vav suffix meaning his children, and ALEF-TAV hyphen with bet yod tav vav, his household, achri, that's future or after, vav shamaro, he shamars derek Yahweh. Okay, this is what he does. He commands his children and his household to shamar the derek of Yahweh. The word derek, the way to bend the bow, the way to walk, the mode, the method. This is how you walk the way, the halakha, the derek, guarding the way, shamaring the derek of Yahweh. So Yahweh is saying, I loved him because I've seen, I knows, or he knows me. We have this intimate relationship. He commands, not just teaches, he commands his children and his household to shamar the derek of Yahweh. Okay, then it says unto, or as ashot, zadikah, and mishpat. That's doing. Ayin Shin Hey is doing. This is Ayin Shin Vav Tav, the plural, zadikah and mishpat. Well, that's translated righteousness and justice. Doing zadikah and mishpat. See, these I mentioned before, which we're going to address right here in the one more verse, that there's 6 or 7 words that Yahweh repeats constantly all the time, again and again, Ayin Vav Dalet, and here's the list of words. But you see, this is before the Torah was ever given to Moshe. This is Abraham. This is Genesis 18:19. He's doing zadikah and mishpat. But see, zadikah is the word victory, deliverance, salvation, justice, and righteousness. Doing righteousness and mishpat is the balancing of scales, knowing that what goes around comes around. If you do righteousness, you get victory, deliverance, and salvation. That's the justice. But then here's this word lama'an again, lamed mem ayin nun. So it's translated because he commands his children. I have loved him because I see that this is what he's doing. He commands his children to shemer the derek of Yahweh, doing zadikah and mishpat, because or so that, hey bet yod aleph, well, hey bet is to give, bet yod aleph is to enter, Yahweh yoked ayin lamed hyphen to Abraham, ALEF-TAV. And then it says, Asher Debar Alika, Ayin Lamed Yod Vav, not alio, not alika, alio, him. So in other words, read this verse backwards. Yahweh spoke something about Abraham. He spoke this blessing, he spoke this covenant of what he was going to do. That's the dabar alio. The dabar, the word yoked to him is that he's going to bless Abraham. That's the ALEF-TAV. The ALEF-TAV standalone, not hyphenated, asher dabar alio. So if we know what the ALEF-TAV is, we can know what Abraham had as his chetness. But Yahweh said, I will give, or I will cause to enter, or cause to happen, arrive, because Lamed Mem Ayin Nun. Well, twice Lamed Mem Ayin Nun is used, and it says in the dictionary, it means even so, or back at you. Well, that's like Gimel Mem. That's like if you turn your ear from hearing the Torah, even so, your prayer is an abomination. So Abraham is going to teach or command his children so that back at you comes everything Yahweh said what he would do, which is the ALEF-TAV. But in order to do so, they have to shamar the derek of Yahweh by doing Zadokah and Mishpat. And that's the key. Doing that is what enables or causes what Yahweh said to happen, which is the ALEF-TAV. So what's Lamed Mem Ayin Nun? It means back at you even so, for the sake of, in order that. Well, Lamed is the prefix letter, accordingly, or belonging to, what's Mem Ayin Nun? To address a letter, or to give an answer. Ayin Nun Hey means an answer. It's the word used in Isaiah 58. Is this the fast? The Ayin Nun Hey is just translated as fast. Is this the fast, or is this the obsession, or is this the burden to be humbled? Blessed are the meek. Blessed are they that mourn. Blessed are they that see these matters and make it their burden. Humbled under the weight of what? Mem Ayin Nun Hey is a furrow, afflicted, tortured, fasting. Ayin Nun Yod Nun was interesting or interested in. Ayin Nun Nun is clouded. Mem Ayin Yod Nun. Now you get Ayin Yod Nun, which is the ayin, which means to weigh carefully, balance exactly, see, consider, determine, balanced, poised, perceptible by the eye, seeable. It's the word for rhombus, which is a square on a slant. You could say you're looking at the way something is. Weigh carefully, balance exactly, measure, determine, precision, meticulous, pedantic. What is going on here? That's Het Shin Bet. That's Ayin Resh Kaf. That's Shin Ayin Resh. That's Hey Bet Tet. Look at the spelling of the words Ayin Yod Tav. Look how to do this. That's Mem Zadi Aleph. That's Tav Resh. Let's make this your Het. And from that determinate Mem, Ayin Yod Nun, that spring fountain source, also thought. Also means like, resembling the nature of. Well, resembling the nature of is Lamed Mem Ayin Nun. That's just the word Mem Ayin Yod Nun. That's like Gimel Mem. So in other words, what Yahweh is saying is he has built his kingdom such that those who will regard his stuff gets his regard of their stuff. That's the way it works. That's the balancing of scales. That's the balancing of scales that brings Zadokah. And when you do his Torah, which is Zadokah, you get victory, deliverance, and salvation, which is Zadokah. Well, wait a minute. Where's Jesus? Abraham was told this is the way it works. Where is Yahush's crucifixion? Giving it to us so that we don't have to. See, if I read in Genesis and if I read David, in Psalms, I don't see Jesus. But yet I was told my whole life, hey, everybody in the past, including Abraham, Moshe, David, Daniel, all those guys, they looked forward to the crucified Savior. Why don't I see it? Let's look at another verse. Genesis 26, verse 5. Because, this is Yahuwah talking to Isaac now. Abraham is dead at this point. But he says, I will increase your offspring like the stars of the heaven. I will give your offspring all these lands, going back, readdressing the covenant made with Abraham. And all the nations of the earth shall bless themselves by your offspring. It's like everybody hates the Jews, like they can't stand to have them around. But are those the offerings of Abraham? Or is it not the Jews? Is it the people walking in the covenant Yahweh made with Abraham? And then he describes, this is Yahweh speaking to Isaac, explaining how it works. He says, because Abraham obeyed my voice, that's number one, observed my safeguards. What are the safeguards? Well, what he said is he shema bekoli. Voice is kuf lamed. Here it's bet kuf lamed yod, the condition of what my voice expressed, you could say. Shema, translated here, is not hear, it's obey. So the word Shema is not just hear, listen, take heed, believe it and do it. All that's wrapped up in Shema, but you don't see that necessarily from the dictionary as much as you get it from looking at the various translations. I'm just saying. The word akuv, ayin kuf bet, is the first word, and it's translated here because. Well, the word kaf yod means because, or lamed mem ayin nun means because, but here it's ayin kuf bet. Yod ayin kuf bet is the word Jacob. What's Jacob got to do with this? Ayin kuf bet means to follow at the heel, like footprints or like the wake of a ship. Again, whatever you do is following you. That's the equivalent synonym with the word dabar. The word dabar means word, speech, affair, business matter. It can mean any of those things, but it also means pasture plague, or that which follows you after you've walked for the day, your encampment in the pasture, or the plague that follows you because you did stupid stuff. You abominated yourself by eating stuff or doing things that you shouldn't have. That's what your dabar is, because it akovs you. It ayin kuf bet. So Jacob being named, he that grabs at the heel, or something is following. What's following? You hear the noise. It's your own ways following you, and that's the pay of your ayin. That's the whatever goes around comes around. You're going to eat your fruit that you bear. All that is wrapped up in the way of the kingdom. So when Yahweh says here to Isaac, following Asher, straight right. So you got dot, line, dot, this secret code of the kingdom. What he said is what it is. Yahushua said, I only do what I see my Father doing, say what I hear him saying. There's a straight line of blessing and accuracy between this dot and this dot. The two dots are indistinguishable. Minimum graphic, dot. Ehye, asher, ehye. Dot, line, dot. Following your behavior is your own way coming on your own head. And for people to all of a sudden get that, read the Torah and go, oh my what have I done to my life? What have I done to myself? I have destroyed myself. How many other people have I destroyed? I've ruined my opportunity on the face of the earth. Can you help me? Can you save me? Can you redeem this? Thank you, Yahusha. Yes, that's what he redeemed. To recover us back into the game, back on the path. Forgiven, washed clean, back in the chet of life. Now learn his ways. Halakha the derek, Shema bekoli. And then he says, Ishamer mashamer ti. Guard what I said to guard. It's translated, observe my safeguards. Observe? The word shamar is watch, keep, guard, observe. What are the safeguards? Mem, shin, mem, resh. The thing I said to safeguard. So you see, you think, oh, there's a bunch of words. Shamar, what I said to shamar. Shema, what I said to shema. Asha, what I said to asha. Pretty simple stuff. And then he gives the list of the three things. Mitzvot, chok, and Torah. So here's the list. If you go back, and that's the end of the verse of 26, verse 5. Mitzvot, mem, zadi, vav, tav, yod suffix. But what's the vav, tav is the plural. But what's zadi, vav? It's the command to join the crew, to man the ship, to join the colors is zadi, vav, vav. The only people that are join the colors on the crew, kaver of the stripes, are those who will matzah, find out what he said to do and do it. That's matzo. That's mitzvot. Chok, chokoti. That's the laws, the command. That's the constitution. That's the custom. That's the protocols of the kingdom. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, because they will be comforted, because they will realize, hey, it's not over yet. The fact you're mourning is the fact you're on the right track. So let's get on the ball. Just put your hand to the rope and get back on the rigging. And the Torah, Torti, Tur, Tav, Vav, Resh is not just instructions, but it's explore, find out. Be on the task of looking forward, knowing that it's all gone screwballed, mixed up, and confused. And part of our obligation is to find out how to do it. So there's those three things. And then it's whatever he said to Shamar. It's whatever he said to Shema. And it's whatever he said to Ashat, Zadikah, and Mishpat. And the one other thing that's not mentioned here that he said, besides the these other 7 matters, is his testimonies. Tav, Ayin, Dalet, Vav, Tav. That's not mentioned in this list, but you got the mitzvot, chok, Torah, Shema, his voice, Shomer, what he said to Shomer, Zadikah, righteous works, Mishpat, and Ta'od, testimonies, the witnesses. So I've heard one person say, well, the testimonies, that's like the acts of the apostles. That's the stories about here's the things the apostles did. Well, then it's also Bible stories. Here's the things that Moses did, that Abraham did, that David did. But the word ayin dalet is also witness and testimony. It's also the root of the word moedim, which are the festivals. So it's walking in the ways of his festivals, which in Leviticus 23 includes the Shabbat. Well, so those are things you're supposed to do. It's like, 613 laws the Jews have listed. I was saying just the other day, he gave us 2. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart and love your neighbors yourself. Those are the 2. Well, it says somewhere else that on these 2 hang all the law and the prophets. And there's another place where he talks about you've broken the yoke, you've cut the straps. So you picture that as saying, well, what's a yoke? Picture that bar across here with the 2 baskets hanging. What's hanging on the yoke? Well, what's the yoke? Ayin Lamed is a yoke. ALEF-TAV is also regarded as a plowshare. That's what yokes up 2 oxen as they're plowing together. And you could say, well, what yokes us? What yokes us to Abraham is that he taught us to walk in the Zadikah and Mishpat of Yahweh, of El Shaddai, of El Elyon, the Most High, the Almighty, Yahweh Zavot, Elohim of Israel, all the same character reference. El Olam, Yahweh used that of his own phrase there in Exodus, meaning the El of the universe, maker of heaven and earth. What yokes us to him is doing what he said. What yokes us to Abraham is because Abraham said, do what he said. That's what yokes us to Israel with Moshe. And that's what David said, me and my chaver, me and my crew, my gang, my posse, me and the guys that were like me, we have a heart for this stuff. Find it interesting. Made it our obsession. The word mem, ayin vav nun, is also dwelling and habitation. Well, that's where you Shabbat. Where do you Shabbat? At the place of ayin vav nun. Well, ayin vav nun is the derivative of ayin nun hey, going back to that same word of saying because, lamed mem ayin nun, you make this your chet. Yahweh's stuff, Yahweh's words. It's the stuff of Abraham, the stuff of David, the stuff of Moshe, the stuff of Yeshua. That's the ALEF-TAV, which is going to follow us, because that's what Yahweh's looking for. And he's looking for people who will ornament themselves with that. And it's like, yeah, but where's Yeshua? Yeshua is the guy who said, you guys have been cut off. I'll buy you back in. Only through me. I'm going to show you the way it's really done. Don't listen to the priests. Don't listen to the philosophers, the scientists. Listen to the priests if they're sitting in the bema seat, the pulpit of reading Moshe's words that he got from Yahuwah. Listen to them. But you got to make this your own. You got to listen to my voice. This is, how do you do that? Because Abraham obeyed my voice, observed my safeguards, my commands, my decrees, and my Torahs. And he said that that land, that's the door, blue, purple, red, white. And that land is the promised land inside that gate. That's the way I see this. And Yahweh himself said he would sustain that as an eternal covenant. Now, somebody could say, he wasn't talking about that. He was talking about the land. I've heard people say that the land of what we call Israel right now isn't even the real Israel. Isn't that place that he was talking about. They think it's maybe in Africa or North America. And it's like, okay, whatever. Nobody knows what year it is. Nobody knows where the land is. But when they find artifacts in the land that looks like, well, they found artifacts in Africa and America. It's like, okay, what did Yahweh say? He said he'd give us the promised land. Okay, that's inside the Chet. And when he said in Deuteronomy 30, he said, when all these things have come upon you, the blessing and the curse, then you will take them to heart and you will walk in my ways, and I will bless you, and I will restore the promised blessing, and I will turn my attention and pour out my fury on your enemies who abused you all these years, because I had set them up to abuse you all these years, because that's what you deserved. Okay, that's what's going on. Okay. Yeah, but what about the world economy, and what about the world politics, and what about the guy was telling me there's a April 14th in 2029, there's a friend was just telling me the other day, there's scientists have determined there's an actual comet or meteor or asteroid or something by the name of Apophis, which is the same as Apollyon, which is the keeper of the guard of the underworld, the demons that have been held in chains. And it's either going to hit the world on April 14th, or if it misses, it will come back in 7 years. It'll hit the world and be an event of biblical proportions is talked about in Revelation, where a third of the world's going to be destroyed or something like that. So that's it. 4 years we have, maybe 11. According to the scientists, that's an actual thing. Unless Yahweh intervenes. Yeah, but remember we talked about the last words that he said in Malachi? Better turn the hearts of the children to the fathers and the hearts of the fathers to the children, lest I strike the earth with annihilation. That's what he said. So if he has this meteor set up, that's going to which is capable of bringing absolute destruction, annihilation to the planet, and whether it's a third or a quarter, or it sets up tribulation or revelation or whatever it might be. Yeah, but look at Malachi 3 that we just looked at, the last verse. He said, turn the hearts of the children to the fathers, and the hearts of the fathers to the children. How do we do that? We talked about that last week. How do you do that? The fathers is the word for the passion that he has. If we're his children, Beni, do what he said. Listen to his voice and do what he said. It's this stuff, these words. So I'm choosing to believe that I'm not going to listen or give a regard to the prophecies of Apophis, Apollyon, the coming comet, because it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is, what did Yahweh say? What does he mean? And what am I now supposed to do about it? How do I asha? How do I shomer? How do I shema? How do I lamed mem ayin nun? And that's the because. And whether he annihilates this place or whether he pours out his favor, reverses the curse, changes everything that nobody who's not listening to his voice has any clue about. So all these people that are telling us what the Bible says, prophesying, are they listening to his voice? Do they know about the 2,730-year curse? Do they believe that when Yahweh said that he gave Abraham an eternal covenant that has nothing to do with saying Jesus died on the cross, so I don't have to? Is that what Yeshua dying on the cross is about? When Yeshua said it is finished, did he mean the covenant with Abraham that was an eternal covenant, the covenant with Moshe that was an eternal covenant, that we should walk in his ways forever because it's the way the entire construction of the universe is built? Is that what he said was finished? Or did somebody misrepresent it is finished? What's the word finished? Well, there's a couple words. One of them is kala, the same word for bride. What is the word for it is? It's a derivative of yod he vav he. Any word with haya or he's, yods, and vavs. Yehi, that means it is. Yehi kala. Did he mean Yehi la kala? This is for the bride? Could he have said that? Did he say it is finished? Or did he say, because the word bride, kaf lamed hey, means it's finished or completely or all of it? Yod kaf lamed, ikal, means he will have the power and capacity to prevail and contain it all. But yod kaf lamed, he will, kaf lamed and kaf lamed hey means complete, whole, finished. He will complete it all. Did he say this is, he's hanging here and said this is yod kaf lamed? I mean, it fits the alphabetic letter sequence there. Of course, he was thrown into the tomb. And so you got to be able to read these things. It's like, hey, just contemplate. Just contemplate. Anyway, Carla, I have no idea where we are in terms of time. Can you tell me?
Where you can wrap it up when you wanna.
Okay. Well, let me do this. I don't know if people can talk in. I think they can. Does anybody have any question about this before we end this week? Anybody have any other question or comment that you want to go on the recording? Okay, well, anyway, let me just
hi, Shalomies. I have something. I was trying to figure out how to open the mic up. When you, Eric, this is really cool. I just wanted to make a point to, you were just talking just a little bit ago about the part of the New Testament where YHUH says, someone asks him something about a training of eternal life. He says something like, believe in Yahweh your Elohim and what was it? And love your neighbor as yourself. And most Christians figure that's just the only thing you have to do, pretty much, is just believe and love your neighbor as yourself. But when you were talking about that, and I've heard that so many times, and just now, what I heard was something that refers to Proverbs chapter 3, verse 3, where the proverb is to wear emet and chesed around your neck, right? Like to walk with emet and chesed around your neck. Well, that is exactly what he's saying. And he said, on these two hang the prophets and the Torah and the prophets. So that's emet, truth. Yahweh is, Elohim, and chesed is love your neighbor as yourself. That's what he was saying, which is wisdom. But it's not that he's saying that's all the commandment is. He's pointing out wisdom. And I just heard that and wanted to just say, wow, that's pretty great.
Yeah, let me say something about that.
Yeah.
There's let's see if I can see this phrase. If I can find it. If you look at Genesis 24, because I was talking about this when he was establishing the way the kingdom is going to work, establishing the way the family was going to work and find its bearings in remaining in Abraham's charge, you might say. So in Genesis 24, Abraham did not have any children at that time. Oh, no, he did have Isaac, actually, but his son Isaac didn't have a wife. He had no grandchildren. It was only Ishmael and Isaac, and Ishmael had already been sent off. And, Abraham was supposed to have this huge family, and he was pushing 100 years old at this point. But he said to his servant, go find a wife for Isaac. And in verse 12 of Genesis 24, now the servant Eliezer is saying this to Elohim. He says, Yahweh Elohim of my master Abraham, may you arrange it for me this day that you do kindness with my master Abraham. I'm standing here by this well of water, and the daughters of the town come out to draw. Let it be that the maiden to whom I should say, please tip your jug that I can drink, and replies, drink, and I'll even water your camels. Her you have designated for your servant, for Isaac. And I may know through her that you have done kindness with my master. Now, why does he say that? That you have done chesed. And there's another place where he says, verse 26, so the man bowed low and prostrated himself to Yahweh. He said, blessed is Yahweh, God of my master Abraham, who has not withheld his kindness and truth from my master. So there's this phrase, when you catch that, kindness and truth, emes and hesed, you'll see that it shows up a few times. Verse 49, and now if you intend to do kindness and truth with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, and I'll go to the right or to the left. That was him saying, is this girl for Isaac, or should I go find somebody else? So what I'm saying is that this phrase, kindness and truth, seems to be a hallmark, you might say. Not just a hallmark, but we could talk about this next week with the letter Tet. It would be interesting. The Celts had you might say, a type of ornamentation, typical, like in America, a lot of people wear what they call a trucker's hat or baseball hat sort of style, but the Celts used to wear this thing they called a torque. It went around their neck, and there was two knobs. Young Celts might just have a simple one. Officers in the military might have a detailed one, maybe bejeweled. It's like, well, what is that? Well, what's a torque? Well, that was a Celtic thing. That was part of their custom. And there was a bunch of different types of Celts. They lived in Europe, England, or France, or all over the place, actually. Well, what if on those knurls, were emet and chesed, have it around your neck? Well, what did that mean? Well, that was insignia. So I made these two little insignia. One was emet and one was chesed, and had the jacket. Actually, I painted them on the collars. It's like where officers wear their rank on the collar. What is about that? He said, it'll not fail you. Well, how do you have that around your neck? It's not just an emblem, but the words being our ornamentation, that plays into exactly what we're talking about. What's the letter tet? Well, tet means that which is round, that which is a full basket. But there's more to it than that. We'll talk about that next week. Talk about the emet and chesed. And why should you have it around your neck? What does that got to do with a torque? Who were the Celts? Because it's part of the family lore, part of the heraldry of the family of Abraham, actually. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, Carla, you could sign us out if you'd like.